Boys in the Hood, released way back in 1991, is like a top 10 gangster film of all time, guys. We're talking about a movie that was so influential. It is still super impactful, and I feel like it has so many memorable moments, and I want to kind of talk about it. Um, right off the bat, guys, this movie, man, had never seen it before. I just recently watched it a couple weeks ago, and I am just blown away, man. Like, off the bat, I want to say this, the writing in this movie is fucking incredible. When we're talking about like the dialogue in particular, like there's not a single scene in this movie that drags or feels like, oh, this is like filler, this is just boring exposition. Like, it feels like none of that. This is one of those movies that like I feel like I'm watching like real life people like go through real life shit. Like, this does not feel like actors just fucking like reading off a script. Like, this is but actors in this movie are so great. Both the young actors from the early part of the movie, which I gotta say, major props to them, man. We're talking about, these kids, man, that play the younger versions of Doughboy, Trey, and Ricky. I feel like their performances were so well done, man. Just because like you saw like just like the raw emotion from them. Definitely that early on scene where they steal the ball from him and like they're trying to get it back. Like, you just feel like the tension of like, just them being kind of like at the wrong place at the wrong time. Like, you could tell they're kind of just like frustrated. And you just kind of see how like it was growing up in the hood back then. Just you had a lot of dudes that are just assholes, bro. And I feel like you see it in this scene. But you see that one guy who just gives him the ball back, and I feel like it's kind of like a moment. You realize like, damn, like despite all this, there's still some but people that have a heart. And I feel like that just like I said, this first half of the movie, this first like little bit of the movie where you see them as younger versions of themselves, I thought that those young actors, they portrayed it so well, man. We're talking about like, for them to be able to pull that off, I have to give them major props, dude. I thought that was really fucking well done. But just this movie, man, it's so impactful, it's so iconic. Like, there's so many moments in this movie like that I can name. I feel like for the most part, this is the whole like, we have Trey, Doughboy, and Ricky, right? Like, these three guys, we kind of see him like grow up in this neighborhood, and definitely like Trey, you see Trey's kind of like goes through like this arc, throughout the movie. And I feel like for the most part, he has like a good like family, and I feel like it's one of the things that like I feel like you see a lot in this movie. You see kind of how like other kids in the neighborhood like are not really treated the same or as well. They don't really have like that good head on their shoulders. They don't have the good parental figure in their house. But Trey always has his father, man. And you definitely see like in early on, whenever he goes to his dad's house for the first time, you get a sense that his dad like is just somebody who's like seen this shit before. He kind of knows that like, he doesn't want his son to be involved in this type of life. Not the life that his friends are. He realized that his friends most likely will end up dying to the hood or something, but he feels that his son is bigger than that. And I feel like Lawrence Fishburne, man, like he had probably the best performance in this entire movie, dude. The way that he plays a father was so convincing. It was so well done, bro. You really felt like he was a dad that was just trying to look out for his son, dude. And when you see like Trey like kind of go through like the story, and he kind of gets involved with like girls and like the hood shit, obviously, and all that, you definitely feel like he's always a guy that just tries to like reel him back in. Like, nah, like you cannot, like you are better than this. You deserve actual like future. And I feel like it goes back to like the tragic tale. I think growing up in this time in particular, unfortunately, there was just a lot of people that like went through this stuff. And I feel like for the most part, I think Ice Cube had said in an interview that, like it was definitely, this movie was really kind of dark compared to real life. He said that like, although the hood was very violent, and it had a lot of sad parts, like they also had a lot of fun. So I feel like that makes me feel better in some way. But just, back to this movie, Ricky's character, man, I feel like is so tragic, dude. You're talking about a kid who's like, seems like he has a good head on his shoulders, he just kind of is growing up, even though he's not directly like a violent person, he's growing up in this environment, he's being surrounded by these people, and just some of the things he says or does, unfortunately, kind of like triggers other people, other gang members that kind of like go after him. And I feel like, his character, man, seeing him kind of like struggle as a kid, that's like he's playing football and he doesn't really know what he wants to do with his life. He doesn't feel like maybe he might not go to the NFL, maybe he's thinking about doing something else. I feel like it's definitely just like an interesting like character, man. It's definitely, obviously, if you have not seen this movie by now, it's been like almost 30 years at this, sorry, already 30 years actually, but it definitely makes his death impactful. And unfortunately, everybody knows like the Ricky meme, and I feel like that's something that like I knew going into this movie, I knew that he was gonna die, but even then, I feel like it was still great, bro. I feel like if you go into this movie like not knowing that he dies, it's definitely shocking. just because it kind of just happened so expectedly, the way that they kind of just pulled up like that in the alley and they just fucking just blast him, dude, it's super just depressing, bro. And I felt like definitely the scene where like they get his body and they put it on the couch and you have like just the baby, his kid like just screaming and his girlfriend screaming and his mom screaming like that, and you see how the mom's like hitting Ice Cube and stuff. Like, I thought that was just it was a hard scene to watch, man. And I feel like you have to give the director from this movie a lot of credit, just because like the acting was so well done, man. It goes back to like the dialogue, dude. Like, we're talking about like all these words in this script, man. It's like, or even like these actors improvising that, I'm not sure, but just everything that's said in this movie, it feels impactful, you know. Like every scene has a purpose, and I feel like that is what I love about this movie. It is super impactful, and I feel like that scene in particular, where you see just Ricky just in his house and his family's crying, I feel like that was super just effective, dude. You definitely just feel like the dread of it, man. Just, it's unfortunate that a young kid like him just becomes another victim to the hood, and I feel like it's definitely a theme in this movie, you know. And I feel like Doughboy's character is one of the most best characters, and he's so complex as well, you know. We're talking about a guy that's like, he kind of knows his place. His brother Ricky, you know, kind of just feels like he's better than him, and you kind of feel like he's always kind of just like being surrounded by the hood shit, right? He's always kind of getting involved in shit and all that, but I feel like at the end of the day, he always cares about his bigger brother, you know. Even though he might not get along with him a lot, I feel like just him, he always kind of protects him, you know. And that scene, you know, that night scene where they're kind of like all hanging out on the streets and stuff, he's like, we got a problem. That was another amazing scene, bro, because literally, like, when everything, the whole situation is like de-escalated, you just see all these, randomly, you just hear all these gunshots like go off, dude. It scared the shit out of me, dude. Like, this dude started just spraying up in the air, all these people started running away, dude. Like, I thought that was really, like, powerful, dude. I was like, damn, like, that was an amazing fucking scene, dude. And it goes back to, like I said, you know, a lot of the performances in this movie are super well done. Even the side characters that don't get a lot of screen time, you feel their presence, you know. You feel their presence on screen, and I feel like that's important, you know. I feel like there's a lot of movies are like, they're fucking great movies, but like really like only like 3 or 4 characters like really stand out. But like this movie, bro, it seems like everybody that has a line in this movie, like if you feel it, dude. I feel like that's what I love about this film, man. And I feel like Boyz n the Hood, you know, it is such a classic for a fucking reason. I feel like when we talk about like gangster movies, this is definitely a top 10 gangster movie because, you know, you have like, I mean, obviously Trey's character, you know, is definitely like the most looked at in this movie, and he definitely has a great arc, you know. He goes kind of from like just being a kid, you kind of see him as he get older, you know, and obviously after his friend dies, you can see how like, you know, he eventually kind of see how like after all this time, you know, his parents try to talk him out of it, you know. It seems like he might have a future. He ends up like almost like getting sucked into it, you know. He goes on, he gets in the car with Doughboy and all his other friends, and he go and try to fucking like go after this fucking guy, right? The guy that killed fucking Ricky, and you kind of see how like he makes a decision to get off the car and he just walks back home. It's definitely a powerful moment in the movie. Just obviously the aftermath where you see Doughboy kill those dudes, bro, and just the shot where like he's looking over him, he just shoots him, dude. Super powerful, dude. And I feel like just the ending, obviously, that Doughboy's monologue is fucking incredible, man. Ice Cube, man, is an amazing fucking music artist. He's one of my favorite artists. Has so many great fucking hits and music, bro. But just him as an actor, man, I felt like this is, in my opinion, one of his best performances ever. I feel like he really just had a lot of great emotion. You definitely see that in his last monologue, the way that he's kind of talking about like his life and shit, and just, and then when you see on screen when he walks away that he ends up dying like a week later or something, it was like, damn, dude. Like, but Boyz n the Hood, man, I'm giving Boyz n the Hood a 90%. You know, that's a high rating for me. I don't give out a lot of 90s, but I feel like for the most part, you know, we're talking about a film that's very special. It's very impactful for this, for the people that grew up watching it, even just afterwards. I feel like this movie just really holds up well, man. You know, like I said, the performances are fucking great, and I feel like overall, like if you're looking for like just like a badass fucking movie, I feel like this is really it. Like this is like a true like gangster movie, dude. And I feel like we talk about gangster movies, there's so many we could talk about, but I feel like this one is a top 10, like undisputedly. Like I really feel that, honestly. I really feel like this movie really impacted me, and I'm very inspired like by this, you know, film, you know. Like I said, incredible acting, a lot of the shots in this movie were fucking great, a lot of the camera work was great. Just overall, man, just, you gotta check this one out, guys. This one is fucking amazing. But other than that, y'all, thank y'all for watching, and yeah, peace.